control?
No, it moved.
Yeah, one more click, please.
It's moving.
So anyway, just a quick word about me. 22 years in the corporate world. I started out as a banker and as a trader, but then decided to move to HR to study leadership, human behavior, corporate governance, and all that. And 22 years into my corporate life, I started, getting exactly as angry as you were about the state of leadership development, talent development, and the practices, not just in India, but around the world. So, having been in Fortune 50 companies at the C-suite of HR, I got really angry because what we were doing in the name of talent development in HR was actually not that. It was anything but internal politics, all kinds of things. So, I completely agree with you. Your first part was total Dhamal, your second part was dead serious. So, then I left and I decided to open my own shop about 14 years ago, where I set up a company in the US called LEC, Leadership Energy Consulting, where I challenged convention on HR and leadership development. I wrote some books. You see them there. I like to say that I'm a struggling author. Why? Because it's hard to write books, but nobody reads books anymore these days. And yet, I've just written a new one which has come out 1 week ago called Sustainable Sustainability. So like HR, the other area that is, sir, which you should get equally angry about is sustainability.
Yes.
The other day I was at a panel in the US and sofas like this, 5,000 people in the audience, and they asked each panelist to give a 20-second closing statement. And the conference was about sustainability. Here's what I said. Luckily I was the third guy, not the first, so I had about 10 seconds or 40 seconds to think about what am I going to say that's intelligent in 20 seconds. Here's what I said. I said the good news is that everybody is talking about sustainability these days, right? The bad news is that everybody is talking about sustainability these days. So the next thing to get angry about is that. And that's what sustainability is all about. And I'll be telling you a few stories about that. And I also write for magazines like Forbes, Harvard Business Review. Whoever will tolerate crazy ideas, sir. So we are off the same track. I was in my last janam, you said in your last janam you were Satarji. In my last janam was a Mallu. So that's a little bit about me. But let's get to serious stuff like you did in a bit. Wow. Oops. My slide got cut off. Anyway, I don't know what's going on. The fact that we live in times of existential challenges, everybody knows. And everybody acknowledges these days. If we don't solve for socio-economic inequality, if we don't solve for climate change and cyber vulnerability, there will be no future. And for the young people in this room, it's your future that we are talking about, right? So everybody acknowledges that these are issues that we have to address. But there's one thing that people don't realize, which is how strongly the world has changed, and that is that all of us are naked. Yeah. Yes, you heard that right. We started talking about the death of privacy 20 years ago, but today we are totally naked. What that means for everybody, including the HR profession, is that whether you do something about these challenges, or whether you don't do anything about these challenges, or just talk about it and do nothing, either way, your action and your inaction is totally in full public view. You and I are totally naked, organizations are naked, ignore these challenges and our own well. That's the issue. Right? So, there's a buzzword in town these days, and it's called ESG. How many people have heard of ESG? Yeah? ESG. There are many frameworks that are trying to drive responsible behavior. Businesses should behave more responsibly towards the environment, towards society, etc., etc. There's so many frameworks that it's like alphabet soup. The one that's become front runner is ESG. Okay, everybody's talking about ESG these days. Question for us today. Despite trillions of dollars in ESG funds, you know what are ESG funds? Anybody raise your hand if you know what is an ESG fund. These are investable funds that are supposed to invest in our future in terms of making the world green, in terms of solving for socio-economic inequality and poverty, in terms of solving for making us secure from technology. Those are called ESG funds or green funds. Can anybody guess how much money is in ESG funds today in the world? so-called green finance funds.
$750 million.
How much?
I don't know, maybe some $750 million.
No, sir, globally.
Globally. Okay.
Yeah, well, how much money is in ESG funds today? Everybody's talking about green finance these days, isn't it? The answer is $28 trillion.
Brilliant.
And the CAGR at which it is growing is 12%. Now, according to the World Economic Forum, we need to spend about $3 to $5 trillion a year to reverse climate change. Okay, so that means by 2032, at a CAGR of 12%, we should have enough money to reverse climate change. So that's good news, isn't it?
Yes.
No, it's not. Because none of that money is going into green finance. That money is going into interbank trading and making traders rich. That money is going into greenwashing. That's what is going on out here. Okay? Oops. Sorry. I apologize that this slideshow is not working. So the question is, despite trillions of dollars in ESG funds and massive regulation, you talked about ethics and compliance and rules. Every country is making new rules and new laws on going green. Yet, why are we not seeing any progress on going green? Why are we not making any progress on the 1.5 degree goal? Why are we not reducing socio-economic inequality? The rich are getting rich, the poor are getting poorer. So, ये सब क्या हो रहा है? कहाँ जा रहा है ये सब पैसा? What is the regulation and the rules doing? It's interesting that you use the word ethics and compliance together. Compliance is all about rules, ethics is about here.
Yes.
But nobody talks about that, people talk about compliance. Right? So, and G, the G of ESG, governance, is made up of rules, compliance, etc. And my question is, will that compliance-based, rules-based G save us from environmental and social challenges? आप 8 पेज की किताब को 50 पेज बनाने की बात कर रहे हैं, with due respect, sir. By adding more rules, are you going to change anything? आप ही ने Enron की बात की थी ना? You know what happened when I'm going off script here a little bit. Has anybody heard of a guy called Andy Fastow? नाम सुना है आपने? जेफ स्किलिंग की बात करी, आपने केन ले की बात करी, but असली champion है ना, the guy who created all those transactions, those off-balance sheet jugglery, was the guy called Andy Fastow. He was the chief financial officer. Okay, I met Andy Fastow when he came out of jail. Somebody told him in Texas he wanted to write a book. Usko 6 years in jail, he learned a lot about what not to do, and he wanted to tell young people about his realizations. So he wanted to write a book. Somebody told him, go talk to Rajeev. Rajeev writes very interesting books on leadership. You both write together. So I spent 2 hours with him discussing the idea. मैंने सोचा global bestseller हो जाएगी because crime, love, harmony सब कुछ मिला देंगे. Bollywood masala पांचों. So he got very excited, and my publishers in New York said, don't touch it. The book was never published because they said don't. My advice to me was, your career as an author will be over if you associate with a criminal. So खैर किताब नहीं लिखी, but let me tell you what happened in that conversation. First of all, he tells me, most people say that Enron was a failure of compliance. I disagree. What Enron was a failure of culture. What Enron was we were not worried about the rules. We were trying to find loopholes around the rules. And one day it became too much. But why were we encouraged to find loopholes? He says, I proved to the world, sir, okay, that you can commit the biggest corporate fraud in American history without breaking a single law. And it is on record, Enron did not break a single law. They went around the law, they broke the spirit of the law. The reason they all went to jail was not because they were proven that they broke the rules. They went to jail because their collective intent to defraud, despite not having broken rules, was proven. Okay. It's a technicality. So when we think that rules is going to save us, governance is going to save us, think again. Right? Okay. He said, his 17-year-old son came to meet him in jail when he was 6 months into his jail sentence. And he says, Daddy, I have read all the court papers. You have done nothing wrong. So, Baba, why are you in jail? He said, I wanted to answer it in such a way that my son understands what not to do. So he says, son, imagine you ask your mom, can I take the car? Can I drive the car this Saturday to a party in the senior's house? You just got your license. You're 17 years old. Mom says, yes, son, you may take the car, but make me a promise that you will never drink alcohol tonight. Say, Mom, I swear I will never drink alcohol tonight. Please allow me to drink. Okay. Now you are at the party, you drove to the party, and your friends, your seniors are putting pressure. Hey, come on, be a man, don't be a wuss, have a couple of beers. Mom will never find out. Come on, come on. You say, no. I promised my mom, right? And then another friend of yours comes along and says, okay, eat this candy. The candy has an equivalent of 3 beers alcohol in it. He says, son, I am in jail not because I drank alcohol. You cannot book me for having drunk alcohol because I did not drink alcohol, but I am in jail because I ate the candy.
Mohit, to please announce the next session.
Thank you very much. We are truly thankful to have you here. So now I would request to
Mohit,
felicitate.
just a second. The question is coming. Rajeev, let me say, this is the best content throughout these 2 days. So, thank you so much for being here. Super. With due respect to all the speakers, believe it is very difficult for everybody to sit down and listen to the session at now this time because I think सब थक चुके हैं सुन करके. But thank you so much. But एक बहुत important question है जो I think सबके दिमाग में चल रहा होगा. As you said that this is the time for India, and the most challenging time for every coach or the trainer right now is to train the MSMEs in India. MSME sector. The SME sector, right. So, how challenging it is for you with your experience to develop that leadership with the family managed businesses in SMEs? Because I have seen that Tata was also FMP, but now if you see, there are a lot of challenges that most of the trainers are facing to develop that leadership. So, your points on that.
Thank you so much. And I get asked this question about the SMEs all the time, right? Everywhere in the world, not just India. And I usually tell the story of, allow me 2 minutes. So there was this young man in Japan, 1920s. He had this ambition to make automobiles and motorcycles cheaper but very good quality so that ordinary people could afford them. So he developed a new engine technology with new piston rings and went to Toyota, the biggest company in Japan, and said, why don't you employ me as an engineer? I will build these for you. They said, get out, this is no good. He went away for 2 years, lost all his money, sold his wife's engagement ring, worked on the design again, came back after 2 years. This time Toyota said, okay, now build it for us and supply it to us, we don't want it. So he builds a factory, and it's World War II and the factory gets bombed by airplanes. Somehow he raises the money again and he builds it again. This time it gets destroyed by an earthquake. Still doesn't give up. Okay, third time somehow he raises the money and builds a factory. This time there is no steel, there is no concrete because it's World War II going on. So he finds a novel way. US soldiers are leaving away canisters of oil. He picks those up and creates concrete with that, somehow completes the factory. Okay, and he struggles and he struggles and he struggles. Nothing works. Finally, he takes a bicycle. He's now bankrupt the third time. He takes a bicycle, puts a little engine on it, and starts riding it in his neighborhood. His neighbor said, this sounds very good. Can I try it? They try it, they like it. Hey, why don't you produce this in a factory? So he writes to 18,000 bicycle shops saying, invest with me. Somehow he raises the money and builds a factory for the 4th time. Sir, that is how Honda Motor Company, as we know it today, was born. He failed and failed and failed for 20 years. He was an SME. Starbucks, Howard Schultz, was an SME. And there are SMEs and SMEs. SMEs who complain to me, Rajeev, don't talk about sustainability. It costs me a lot of money. I don't have the resources. It's for the big companies to do. Whereas there are SME leaders who from day one say, I want to make money, but I want to make money by solving an environmental or social challenge. It's about here and here. Heart and strategy. Once you have that. And so how do you build that kind of leaders? Instead of teaching them trite formulas of 2x2 matrices and skill and will and this, that and the other, let's talk about getting them in touch with their real values. So I talk about emotional integrity, not emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is a fashion something. Emotional integrity is looking in the mirror and admitting to yourself what you really want to be. if you didn't care about society. लोग क्या कहेंगे इसको भूल के आप अपने आप से तो पूछो कि मैं क्या करना चाहता हूँ. That is the kind of leader we need to be.
Thank you very much. I would like to invite Dr. Amit Jain, Vice Chancellor, President, MIT University, Rajasthan, and Dr. Anil Mehta. He is Management Professor with Vanastili Vidyapith, to felicitate Rajeev sir.